My name is Odessa Phillip. I am the outreach manager for the consultant team for this project, and very excited to join you all today talking about the master plan of transportation. So, thank you all for joining us. Really looking forward to a just a few things I'm going to talk about, us prepared for using Microsoft Teams. So, looking forward to having some participation from you all. But just in order to help us manage the room, many of you will have noticed when you entered, your video was disabled and your phone, your computers were muted. This just helps us to preserve bandwidth as we're working through the presentation. And then afterwards, we will open you'll be able to submit questions in the chat at any time. So if you have a question and you want to make sure we address it, please put it in the chat. And at some point, we'll be able to address it with one of our facilitators here on the team. And then I also want you all to be prepared to participate in some feedback activities. And so I'm going to talk to you about how to use the tool that we're going to use. It will require a second device or another tab on your laptop computer. So just want to get you prepared for that. And I will talk to you a little bit about that in a few moments. So tonight's agenda, we're going to start off with some opening remarks from Will Capers from the Maryland National Capital Planning Park and Planning Commission. Then we'll have talk about the purpose of the project, a little bit of background. We'll talk about the planning process, your input and how you're going to submit it. And then we'll have next steps and some time at the end for open questions and answers. Really importantly, at a point in this meeting, we are going to break out. We're going to go into breakout rooms, and we will give you some information before we do that. But I wanted to make sure you're aware you are going to go into breakout rooms at a point later on in the meeting. So don't be alarmed, and we'll give you all the information you need in order to go into those breakout rooms later on. So with that, I'd like to welcome Will to make some opening remarks. Will?
Thank you, Odessa, and thank you everyone for taking the time this evening to join us to discuss the Maryland National Capital Parking Planners Commission's update to the Master Plan of Transportation, also known as the MPOT 2035 Plan Update. My name is Will Capers, and I am the supervisor for the Planning Department's Transportation Planning Section. The Transportation Planning Section is also represented this evening with MPOT 2035 Project Manager Crystal Hancock and Deputy Project Manager Judith Howerton. As we embark on this great undertaking to prepare for future transportation infrastructure and for the planning needs of the county, we are extremely excited to engage with the stakeholders of Prince George's County, who consist of a diverse population of residents and business owners, to help support, shape, and are served by the planning efforts and implementation of the Master Plan of Transportation goals and vision. We intend for this meeting to be both informational and collaborative in nature, where we can incorporate your thoughts in our plan efforts. I would like to express that this is an ongoing process with all community stakeholders. So if something is missed during this meeting, or as you take any information and have additional thoughts at a later time, please feel free to reach out to the county's team to provide additional feedback after this meeting and or any time during this process. Our outreach efforts are an essential part of the plan development, and as part of this venture, we have established several ongoing measures to incorporate the community feedback, which will be discussed in more detail later this evening. For the planning department, I would like to thank you all in advance for your participation, and I look forward to working with the many stakeholders during this process as we plan for transportation infrastructure and services for the county. I will now pass it back to Odessa to continue on with the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Appreciate your remarks every time. They're great. So I next want to talk about our consultant team. Our consultant team is comprised of representatives from a few local firms. We're first off led by Theron Piers, and Quasi Doncor is our project manager, and he's going to say a few words. But I also want you to know our team is made up of representatives from Tool Design, RK&K, Lardner Klein, and Aceto Consulting. But right now, I'd like to welcome Quasi to give us some remarks.
Thanks, Odessa. Good evening, everyone. My name is Quasi, and I'm excited to be working with the county on this MPOT, and also working with my colleagues, as Odessa mentioned, and that are listed here on the consultant team. On a personal note, I'm a resident of Prince George's County, so I'm personally invested in this MPOT and am excited to see what we envision for the county's future moving forward. So looking forward to all the great comments that you will be providing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Quasi. So with that, I want to get started talking about the feedback tool that we're going to be using tonight. It is a tool called Slido. So we're going to be using Slido, and I'm going to give you a little instruction so that you're prepared for it. We're not going to need it for about 20 more minutes, but I want you to use it now. We're going to do a test to make sure everyone is able to use it, and then we will go forward from there. So just to explain Slido, you're going to use Slido. You're going to do either one of a few things. If you have an external additional device, you're going to use your cell phone, and you're going to open up the camera function and scan the QR code. You may have been doing this lately over the pandemic to order food from a restaurant, but if not, I just want to make sure you're aware of how to do it. The second, once you get to that Slido, you'll be able to click on the link. It'll take you into the function, and you'll then be able to participate in the polling. The second way to access Slido, and it has just been placed in the chat function, is to go to slido.com, either on a second tab or on your mobile device, and you will then be taken into it, and you're going to use the code MPOT 2035B, which is M as in Mary, P as in Patrick, O as in October, T as in transportation, 2035B as in boy. So with that being said, we're going to test out how well it's working and that people are able to use Slido. So I'm going to take you to the next slide and ask the question. Which city in Prince George's County are you joining us from today? So just want to make sure that you're able to use Slido. I see someone has already represented from Laurel, which is where I'm from. And I see Bowie and Cheverly, a couple of buoys. So just in case you don't know, the way that these word clouds work, the more people who come from the exact same location, the bigger they get. So I see Bowie and Laurel. I see Cheverly, Riverdale, Upper Marlboro, Largo. And the great thing is in the upper right-hand corner, we can see how many people are participating. And so that also helps us as a cue to know that we've got participation from the public that's in attendance. And that will also help us make sure that we hear from everyone that wants to participate. Super excited to see we have some of our neighboring representatives from Silver Spring outside of the county, but within the county, also College Park, Mitchellville, Riverdale. Hope we can get a few more people to participate. That would be terrific. And then also, excuse me if you see me looking off to the left because I have a second monitor and it's bigger there, and I don't have my glasses on. Excellent. Looks like Bowie is a higher representation this evening. That's great. I want to give you guys a little bit more time. I'm going to just remind you how to access Slido. You can either scan the QR code that you see over here on your on the left-hand side of the screen, and that can take you directly to slido.com, or you may use a second tab on your device and go to slido.com and enter the code MPOT 2035B, where M as in Mary, P as in Patrick, O as in October, T as in transportation, 2035B as in boy. So give a couple more moments, see if anybody else. Fort Washington has joined us. Welcome, Fort Washington. A few more from Mitchellville. Delphi, welcome. Okay, well, wonderful. thank you. I wanted to make sure, oh, I see more coming. Bowie is here in droves, wonderful. We're going to continue moving on, but I wanted to make sure you knew how to use Slido. You're going to be using this tool later on when we go into the breakout rooms. So wanted to make sure everybody knew how to use it. So based off of what I discussed a little bit earlier on our agenda, I want to talk to you about the purpose of these meetings so that you are well prepared and understand what you're expecting tonight. So the purpose of the meeting is to share information about the Master Plan of Transportation 2035. We also want to hear from you about transportation in Prince George's County. Nobody understands it better than the people who are using the transportation facilities as well as the in the network. And so we want to make sure that we understand all of your thoughts, where there may be opportunities, where there may be challenges. We also want to solicit input from you that can help us guide the team as we're developing the Master Plan of Transportation. So how can you help us? We want you, as I just kind of alluded to indicate challenges and opportunities that may be addressed in the MPOT document. Some of the examples, just as a tickler so you can start to think about it this way, include sidewalk connectivity, bike share, scooters, pedestrian safety, crosswalks, Americans with Disability Act or ADA accessibility, congestion relief, bike lanes. So those are just some things to get your mind thinking about what kind of transportation we're talking about and what those different elements or features are that you may want to help us understand and weigh in on. So we're going to give you a little definition of what the Master Plan of Transportation is so that we are all starting at the same baseline. The Master Plan of Transportation is a county-wide functional master plan for guiding transportation infrastructure and network development. MPOT 2035 is an update and replacement for the 2009 MPOT and the transportation facility recommendations from the active area and sector master plans. So we're looking to update and replace an old document and get people positioned for what the future of transportation should look like here in the county. Looking at the map here you see on the right, it's just trying to give you help you see the shape of Prince George's County. Hopefully by now you understand and recognize that shape. And there are a couple of key points here that I want to highlight. The areas that are highlighted in green are the rural and agricultural areas or sections of the county. The areas highlighted in yellow, or kind of that palish yellow color, are where established communities are largely based in the county. The areas that you see that have a yellow diamond, so they kind of probably look like yellow dots, but they're diamonds. Those are the regional transit districts per the Plan 2035, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then the red dots are local centers. And so the only other thing is that you'll see there are lines on the map, and those lines are where the transit, WMATA's Metro Rail, are located, the blue, green, yellow, orange, and purple lines, the future purple line. So just quickly to give you a brief understanding of the Plan 2035, different from the MPOT 2035. Plan 2035 was a framework that included 6 principles that guide the vision, policies, and strategies for the county. So it's a countywide master plan. But it also had pieces that play an integral role in the development of MPOT 2035. Transportation impacts the county's guiding principles, and it does that when it tries to concentrate future growth, prioritize and focus our resources, build on our strengths and assets, create choice communities, connect our neighborhoods and significant places, and then protect and value our natural resources. So that was kind of the big picture from Plan 2035. Now, you may be asking, why do we need to create MPOT 2035? I already mentioned that it's an update and replacement of the 2009 countywide functional master plan for transportation. But that prior plan was able to provide recommendations for the master plan roadway classifications, right-of-way, trail facilities, and it also offered policy recommendations for policies such as complete streets and transit-oriented development. The goals of MPOT 2035, the primary goal is to envision a countywide transportation system that supports the safe, efficient, and equitable movement of people and goods, not just here in the county, but in the region. So even though we're developing MPOT 2035 for Prince George's County, we don't want to lose sight of how our county mixes in with the rest of the Washington metropolitan region. The project team is going to work with you, members of the community, and other stakeholders, including elected officials and any other interested parties, to help us create a vision for transportation and the future of this county. We want it to meet the needs of the residents while also advancing the countywide transportation goals. I want to explain a little bit of what this document can and cannot do. And this is super important to understand because there are other documents that are that have been created or have been worked on that will do some of the other pieces. So MPOT 2035 can act as a guideline for future implementation, and it can also provide the foundation for transportation recommendations. It cannot, however, provide specific recommendations for implementation, nor can it make specific land use or zoning recommendations, but there are land use plans and zoning rewrites that are able to do that. And it can't guarantee a timeline for funding availability. So just because we've identified what projects might make sense or what kind of improvements might make sense, the master plan of transportation will not be able to say, well, this should be funded and this is when it's going to happen. So just briefly, so you can understand the planning process that we're going to be going through, wanted to highlight those steps here for you. We're going to start by using the transportation forecast model to discuss and address county traffic congestion and future transportation needs. We're going to also be reassessing policies and recommendations made out of that 2009 master plan of transportation. We'll evaluate existing and proposed county rights-of-way, scenic and historic road designations, transit corridors, pedestrian facilities, and bicycle corridors. Now that's a lot. We're going to be doing a lot of looking at the existing conditions and understanding what is happening. And then we'll include a focus on multimodal transportation in those designated centers I showed you on the map a few slides ago, and sustainable transportation in existing neighborhoods. Now, this is my favorite part, the engagement process. Our plan includes several different steps, but I'm just going to highlight some of this for you. As we are doing tonight, we're going to host a series of meetings with stakeholders and collect information and input from them on priorities, transportation needs, and where there may be opportunities or challenges. We are meeting not just with you as the community, but also with agency and municipal leaders. And so that is going to help us have a very well-rounded set of input, as well as other groups that are really interested in transportation and may have some perspective to offer. We're going to use all of this information that we collect, along with those prior plans I mentioned and an existing conditions analysis to prepare an existing conditions report. Once we've got that report, we're going to prepare a draft MPOT document and give stakeholders an opportunity to provide us input and see how well it aligns with some of this feedback we've gotten here and from the other stakeholder meetings. We'll then host a second set of meetings with stakeholders to confirm that we've captured correctly the information and the input we've received. Then we'll finalize the MPOT and present it to the planning board and county officials for approval. Just a little bit on our engagement efforts to date. So we have, as I just alluded to, met with agency leaders from organizations like the Department of Public Works and Transportation and Department of Planning and others, as well as municipal leaders in the different municipalities in the county, and their maybe Department of Public Works and Transportation folks or Department of Public Works folks. And as well as the Active Transportation Advisory Group to start having discussions around MPOT 2035. We've asked a series of questions and we had 4 major themes. Those themes were active transportation, Vision Zero, transit, and roadways. We are using a lot of the feedback from those earlier meetings as a starting point so that we can get some of your feedback. So we're using it to kind of trigger some thoughts from you as we're going to have this feedback session in a little bit. Today, in addition to those 4 themes that I mentioned earlier, we're adding 2 additional themes, and those include sustainability and goals and performance measures. So as we've been moving forward, we realized we wanted feedback on a little bit more, and so we've expanded what we're asking in terms of information. We're going to get that initial feedback and share it, and then get your position or your thoughts on that initial feedback, and then also ask you for additional thoughts that can be helpful for us. So here we go. We're going to share your feedback. And in order to do this, we are going to go into these breakout rooms, and we're hoping to have some active dialogue and some participation using the Slido function that I mentioned earlier in order to help us get a better sense of what your thoughts are on transportation in the county. So once again, we're going to go to Slido. When we get into these breakout rooms, you're going to get an opportunity to go into another Slido and be able to answer some additional questions. Just as a reminder, you can either scan the QR code when we get to that slide, or you'll be able to go to slido.com, either using a second tab on your computer or of existing device, or you'll be able to type that in on a secondary device like a smartphone, etc. If by chance you are calling in, so you're on the phone only, or you have a technical challenge in going into a breakout room, we are going to have some continued conversation. We'll be able to help you stay in the meeting. So we'll be able to walk you through that. We are breaking the meeting up by region so that we have North, Central, and South in these breakout rooms. And then once I've gone through this description, we will be putting the link to the breakout rooms in the chat, and you'll be able to click directly into that room. We are going to ask that once you click into that, I want to point out a couple of things. When you click into that room, the current meeting that you're in will be placed on hold, and you'll see it go on hold, and you'll be going into a second room. You will not need to come back to this main room at any point. And so at some point during the presentation in the breakout room, our team will be closing out this, anybody who's already attending a breakout room. Now, the North breakout room, just so that you know where it is for anyone who's kind of up in the northern part of the county. Laurel, Greenbelt, College Park, Bowie, and New Carrollton are kind of the southern section here. So anything between the Howard County, Montgomery County, Anne Arundel County line and Route 50. So that whole area, we're calling the north area of the county. So we'll want you to go into the North breakout room once the link becomes available. If you are in between Route 50 and Route 4 or Pennsylvania Avenue, then you would be in the Central breakout room. And so that's just to kind of give you a sense that's kind of anywhere in between Largo and Upper Marlboro. So a little south of New Carrollton, more Largo to Upper Marlboro is that Central breakout room. Finally, the South breakout room starts at Pennsylvania Avenue and goes all the way down to the Calvert County, Charles County line in the south and the Fairfax County line on the west. And so that includes areas like Clinton, Fort Washington, Baden, really farther south in the county. With that being said, I'm hoping that the links are now in the chat over to the right. So if you click on the chat bubble, you should be able to see the North, Central, and South room, and you'll see a link that you can click to and join that room. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat now. Otherwise, we hope you will join us and click over into one of these breakout rooms. I am going to now stop sharing my screen, and someone else will take over here in this room, and I will be going into a breakout room myself.